We're looking at the Metaltek XB1200, and we've got a video of it in action too.
If you're involved in any kind of heavy industry, construction, manufacturing, this is the kind of tech that's changing the game.
Right.
The first thing that jumps out is the way it uses 3D models. We're not talking about old school blueprints here.
Nope, full 3D models. The XB1200 maps out every cut in 3 dimensions.
And the controller, the brains of the operation, automatically figures out which cutting profile to use.
In the demo, there's this moment where they realize one part of the design has a slightly center wall.
Right, and instead of having to reprogram everything, they just reassign it to a different cutting profile, no problem.
Super flexible.
Exactly. In a real-world setting, that kind of adaptability is essential.
Makes things so much easier for the operator. And speaking of making things easier, let's talk about nesting.
Nesting. This is where it gets really smart.
The software figures out the most efficient way to arrange all the parts, get the absolute most out of every single piece of pipe.
Like a super-powered game of Tetris. Minimizing waste is key, especially when you're dealing with these kinds of materials.
In the demo, they even show how the operator can prioritize certain cuts. So if there's a rush order, boom, you can bump it to the front of the line.
Yeah, a nice level of control there.
Before it even makes a cut, the XD1200 actually measures the pipe.
Yeah, they're checking for roundness, straightness, basically making sure it's perfect.
But here's the kicker. If it finds any imperfections, it adjusts the cutting path to compensate.
Real-time adjustments, that's the level of precision we're talking about.
Mind-blowing. They demonstrate this with the double frog mouth part. It's got these extreme bevels, angled cuts where the pieces connect.
And those bevels are pushing the limits of what the cutting torch can handle. But the software figures out a way to make the cuts without overstressing the equipment.
And still ensures everything will fit together perfectly for welding later on. Seriously impressive.
It's thinking several steps ahead.
Like a chess grandmaster, but for pipe cutting. And you're not just left guessing what's happening either. There's this visual representation of the whole cutting process right on the screen.
Each part lights up as it's finished, so the operator always knows exactly what stage they're at. And it's not just about making the cuts right. They've also really thought about how the machine handles the different size pieces.
Oh yeah, like smaller parts just drop into a bin at the bottom out of the way.
Super efficient. But then the longer pieces, they position those towards the back of the material.
Oh, why is that?
So they can cut the whole length of pipe without having to stop and rearrange things.
Oh, I see. It keeps everything moving smoothly.
Keeps that downtime to a minimum.
Smart. And speaking of smart, how about those safety features? They mentioned something about how it handles those end cuts.
Right. It always splits the end cuts in half.
What's the point of that?
Well, think about it. By doing it that way, the final cut always finishes at the top, so any debris falls away from the torch and the arm.
Keeps everything protected.
Exactly. Prevents any damage to the equipment.
Nice. Okay, so we've got precision, efficiency, safety. Is there anything this machine can't do?
Well, it probably can't make us lunch, haha.
True. But when it comes to pipe cutting, it's pretty darn impressive. And you know how we were talking about that visual representation of the process?
Yep.
Well, they show how the pink on the screen represents the parts that have already been cut.
Yeah.
And then green is the uncut portion.
That's right. And the drawbridge clamps, those are the supports that move along the pipe. Well, they adjust dynamically to hold up the end as it's being cut.
Pretty slick.
Really cool to see it in action.
And to make sure the pipe is held super securely, especially when it's getting down to the end, they've got those tungsten carbide tipped jaws.
Yeah, those provide some serious grip, ensure a nice clean cut, even on that last little bit.
And once that last piece is done, bam, it loads the next length of pipe from the conveyor. This thing just keeps on going.
Seamless.
Amazing. We've seen how it handles those individual pipes, but I'm kind of curious, how does this continuous operation fit into like a bigger manufacturing picture?
You're thinking big picture now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all well and good to cut these pipes super efficiently, but where does it go from there?
That's a great question. It really gets us thinking about the whole impact of automation, on industrial settings in general.
I'm listening.
Imagine this pipe cutting machine as just one part of a much larger, totally automated production line.
Okay, so raw materials coming in one end, finished products rolling out the other, all humming along with minimal human intervention.
That's the idea. It's not just about cutting pipes faster, it's about streamlining those whole manufacturing processes.
Reducing labor costs, increasing safety.
Exactly, and maybe even opening up entirely new ways of doing things that we haven't even thought of yet.
Whoa, now we're talking future of manufacturing stuff.
Definitely a glimpse of what's to come. But before we get too carried away with all that, let's bring it back to the XB1200 for a minute.
All right, so big picture. What makes this Metaltek XB1200 so impressive?
I mean, where do we even start? Precision cutting with those 3D models, intelligent nesting to squeeze every inch out of those pipes, real-time tracking so you're never in the dark.
And designed with both safety and efficiency in mind. It's like they thought of everything.
It really is. The way they've combined the software and hardware, that's what's really remarkable. It's not just brute force, it's intelligent automation every step of the way.
Yeah, this is not your grandpa's pipe cutting machine. This is like next level stuff. Just from glancing at this thing, this XB1200 seems like it pretty much takes care of everything when it comes to structural steel.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. You basically feed it raw material.
And it just spits out these perfect pieces ready to go, right?
Ready to assemble, yeah. That's the goal.
Like magic.
It is a bit like magic. It's a CNC plasma beamline machine designed for basically every step of that steel processing.
And they're not kidding when they say every step, are they?
Not at all.
Just looking at this list of profiles.
Yeah.
RHS, SHS, UB, UC.
It's a whole alphabet soup.
It is. Plus, of course, plate and pipe. Can't forget those.
Absolutely, gotta have those.
And it's not just cutting, right?
Nope.
It does coping, mitering, slots, holes. It even does the beveling for weld prep.
The whole 9 yards, it really is a one-stop shop for your steel prep.
Now, I saw it can even etch and mark the parts, too.
Yeah, it's
I
fantastic.
bet that helps a ton on the assembly side.
Absolutely, for organization and just keeping everything straight. Picture a really efficient steel production line, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You load up your raw material onto this in-feed buffer.
Right.
The machine grabs it, pulls it through, processes it based on whatever's programmed in there, and then spits out the finished parts onto an outfeed buffer, ready for the next stage.
So what about the programming? I mean, this thing can handle some really complex shapes.
It can.
Does it take like a software engineer to run this thing?
You'd think so, but actually, that's one of the things that really surprised me. The software is super user-friendly,
No kidding.
and it integrates really well with all the design stuff that's already being used.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Reads industry standard files, you know, your DSTV and DXF.
Wait, hold on. DSTV and DXF. For those of us, and I'm including myself here, who aren't fluent in steel fabrication lingo,
Right.
what are we talking about here? Break it down.
So think of them as specialized file formats, basically a translator between the design software and the machine itself.
Okay, so the designers can stick with their usual programs.
Exactly.
Like what? Tekla, StruCAD?
Tekla, StruCAD, even AutoCAD.
Oh, wow.
And the XB1200 can just read it, no problem.
That's so convenient.
It is. No translating, no converting, saves a lot of headaches.
So smart. And it gets even better, right?
Oh, it gets even better.
Tell me more.
The XB1200 can actually import 3D models directly. Platforms like SolidWorks, Inventor, Solid Edge, you name it.
Okay, now that is really impressive.
It really is.
Like we're blurring the lines here between design and actual fabrication.
It's the future.
It is.
ART really figured it out with this machine.
They did.
The XB1200 makes pipe coping and beveling look easy. Even complex cuts, weld preps, all in one smooth process.
Can it handle plates too?
Absolutely.
Like if you're doing base plates or brackets?
All part of its repertoire.
So just to be clear, we're talking about a machine that could work with tons of profiles, up to 1,200 millimeters wide.
Wow.
Plates up to 50 millimeters thick, pipes a full meter in diameter.
That's right.
This thing is like the ultimate steel fabrication tool.
Like the Swiss Army knife of steel fabrication.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Isn't it?
We talked a little bit about etching before. Where does that fit into this whole efficiency picture?
So imagine having all your part numbers, assembly instructions, weld marks, everything right there on the steel.
No more separate templates or marking stuff by hand.
Exactly. Saves a ton of time, reduces errors, and just streamlines everything.
What about material thickness? What are the limits there?
It depends on the plasma power supply.
Okay.
The standard Hypertherm XPR300 can pierce up to 50 millimeters,
Wow.
and it can edge start up to 80.
That's serious steel. So is there like a limit on the length of material it can work with?
Theoretically, no. The standard conveyor can handle some pretty long pieces,
Okay.
and if you need to go even longer, you can always use temporary supports.
Smart. All right, last question.
Yeah.
What about support? Like, if you need help with the machine.
ART offers full support, ongoing,
Okay, that's good.
and they can even access the controller remotely, like if you need help troubleshooting.
It's not just about the machine, it's a whole package.
Exactly, you're not on your own.
I gotta say, after seeing this thing in action and hearing about all these features, it's pretty clear this Metaltek XB1200 is a total game changer.
I agree.
It's not just automating things, it's like redefining what's possible when it comes to speed, precision, and efficiency.
And it's not just a machine, it's a whole system,
Right.
bringing design, fabrication, even business management all together.
Okay, this is the part that really blows my mind.
Okay.
They're showing the machine actually measuring the pipe, like
Yeah.
if it's not perfectly round, or if there's a little bend,
So it checks for any deformities.
and then it automatically adjusts the cut to compensate. How is that even possible?
It's incredible. No more manual adjustments. Every cut is going to be precise no matter what.
Even if the material isn't perfect.
Exactly. It accounts for everything.
Okay, what about those bevels? Those look pretty complex.
They are, especially near the edge of the pipe there.
What's going on there?
The software, again, it's so intelligent, it's actually changing the cut path so it doesn't overload the torch, but it still makes sure you get a good weld prep.
Wow,
Thinking several steps ahead,
it really is.
analyzing everything at once, the geometry, the torch limitations, what you need for the weld.
And look at that, a two-stage end cut.
Safety first.
They're making sure that piece doesn't fall and damage the torch.
You know, AAT thought of everything when they designed this.
Speaking of thinking ahead, remember that automatic nesting? Look how they put the longer parts at the back.
They're maximizing every bit of that pipe, not an inch wasted.
And once it's done with one piece,
Bam, next one right up.
seamless. It's like a perfectly choreographed steel ballet.
The automation here is really something else.
All right, that video was impressive, no doubt.
Right,
But I still have a few questions.
it may.
Luckily, this brochure has a whole FAQ section.
Perfect, let's tackle some of those.
First up, do you need any kind of special software, to translate those cut files for the machine?
Nope, none at all. The XB1200 handles all that. It can read the files from all of the major programs.
Okay, good to know. What kinds of files are we talking?
Well, you got your NC1, your DXF.
Right.
It can even work with 3D model formats like STL and STP.
So it's pretty flexible.
Very flexible.
Okay. What about cost? Can the XB1200 help you figure all that out?
Oh yeah, it actually has a pricing function built right in.
No way.
You can estimate the cost of the whole job
Wow.
based on the weight of the material, how long it takes to process it, even down to the number of cuts and holes.
That's amazing. You know exactly what you're getting into before you even start cutting.
Exactly, no surprises.
I love that.
Okay.
And hold on, this is even better.
Tell me.
You can preview the whole process on the controller,
You
right?
got it. See exactly how it's all going to go down beforehand.
Catch any problems before they actually happen.
Exactly. It even comes with a desktop version of the software.
Oh, wow.
So you can preview offline if you want.
Okay, so are all these amazing features included? Or are we talking like separate modules for different things, like nesting or pipe processing?
Good question. Unlike some other machines out there,
Oh,
the XB1200 comes with everything you need.
really?
Right out of the box, all the features we've talked about, it's all included.
That is fantastic. No hidden costs. I love it. So say you need to change a part after the program's already loaded.
Okay.
Can you do that, like on the fly?
You can. There's a CAD interface built into the controller.
Get out of here.
So you can edit 2D DXF files right there on the machine. And if you're working with other file types, it can convert them to DXF for easy editing.
Okay, that's a lifesaver. Flexibility is key.
Absolutely. Especially when things are moving fast.
This Metaltek XB1200 really does represent a lot of what's important right now. We're talking efficiency, innovation, sustainability.
And the human element too.
That's right, it's not just about replacing people, it's about people and machines working together.
To create a better built environment, one that's more efficient, more sustainable, more inspiring.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on.